The Asus Zephyrus G14 from 2021 with the new Ryzen 5900HS is a wonderful computer. In fact, it might be my favorite Windows laptop currently on the market, and I've used the heck out of this thing over the past week. So how has it held up? What does it do to earn that glowing opening statement? Let's find out. And while we're finding out, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Manscaped.com. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Look, this laptop is amazing. There is not another way to say it. For this size and this price, you get a legit amount of power that almost doesn't seem like it should work as well as it does, but it does. Gary, stop confusing everybody. The version of this laptop that I bought to talk about in this video is the 2021 G14 with the Ryzen 5900HS, 1TB solid state drive, 16GB of RAM, and the NVIDIA 3060 graphics card. As this is an X time later video, let's talk about what I've liked and what I've disliked in the time that I've spent with this machine. This is probably going to be a short section based on all of that positivity earlier in the video. Let's start off with the dislikes. There are only a few things that I really dislike about the Zephyrus G14. One, I don't really like that there isn't a webcam, and if that surprises you, there isn't one at all. And that was so surprising to me when I noticed that in the spec sheet. I had to go back and check the physical laptop itself. And no, there is no webcam here. Like, look at that. There's no webcam. Is this a deal breaker? No, but if we do want to use this as a hybrid professional laptop, 99.9% of meetings or collaborating anymore is done via some kind of virtual software, Teams, WebEx, Zoom, etc. And okay, honesty time, I do prefer to have my video off. Sometimes you do need to have a camera and you do need to show your face in the meetings. I'm kind of surprised that it's lacking here. The next thing I don't like is just something that you'll have to deal with when you move to an AMD style processor. In Ryzen land, you do get superior performance, but you lose out on Thunderbolt 3. And for me, it is kind of a huge deal. The majority of my working from home desk setup is built off of Thunderbolt 3. Yes, there is some awesome I/O built into this computer that we'll talk more about later, but Thunderbolt 3 is just so nice, and that you can have a fully set up accessory system that interfaces with your computer via one cable. And I say this because if you've seen my nightmare that I call a desk, I need to limit the amount of cables that I have because I apparently can't control them and they get out of hand very quickly. As I've said in previous videos, this will be on a sliding scale of annoyance depending on how much of a pre-existing Thunderbolt ecosystem you've already got, and for me, it's a lot. And something else is kind of tied into this, and I can't tell if this is a problem that I'm having with Asus laptops or Ryzen laptops, but another thing that I dislike is this doesn't work very well with my VR rig. In its favor though, unlike other Ryzen laptops I've used in the past, this will actually let my Oculus 2 connect, and it does kind of work, but it's so laggy and unresponsive that actually playing a game is not feasible. And that really sucks. I like using laptops as a sort of mobile VR rig, and this has so much power on hand, both in the CPU and the GPU, but it just can't work together with an Oculus headset plugged in via USB-C. Maybe another style or brand of VR will work, but I only have mine to test. And the last thing that I haven't liked about this laptop is kind of weird, because it's gonna be both in the dislike and the positive side in the video. I promise I haven't gone crazy. Too crazy. The keys on the keyboard feel very hollow and cheap. It feels like they have some kind of super plasticky sort of texture to them, and when actually typing or working on the laptop, they stand in stark contrast to the rest of the build quality. Like, they feel so plasticky. Thanks again to today's sponsor, Manscaped.com. Look, in the past year working from home, I've had a heck of a time keeping up with my personal grooming, but it's made much easier now that Manscaped provided me their Performance Package Kit. In this very sleek, stylish set, you'll get their Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology. Plus, and as I get older, I find that I need this more and more, you'll also get the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmers. All of you youngins out there might not think you'll ever need these, but time catches up to all of us, and this has been my most used tool in the whole kit. Finally, you'll also be able to take care of your fingers and toes with their Shears 2.0 luxury nail kit. And for a limited time, and if you use the code in the description box, you'll get all of this plus 2 free gifts of a very nice bag and boxer short combo. So head on over to manscaped.com/theeverydaydad where you'll get 20% off plus those extra gifts using the code EverydayDad20. Now let's talk about the things I like, and this will be a much longer section because there is so much that I like. The typing experience, let's talk back about the keyboards. The typing experience on the G14 is one of the best that I've ever had on a gaming laptop. I just kind of wish they'd use different materials on the keycaps because everything else is great. I actually typed the script for today's video on the G14 and the keys all have a very nice spring to them without being too mechanically clicky. Can you hear that? They're so good. They're so good and they got just enough responsiveness to them. The keyboard is laid out very well without needing me to stretch to reach any of these sometimes harder keys like T and Y, and I really like how the monitor of the computer actually lifts the body up, giving it a slight wedge shape. This makes it so much more comfortable to type on. Seriously, I know they look good. Laptops with straighter lines might be better looking when sitting on a desk, but I find in both Windows and Apple machines, if it's all right angles, you can get some pain in your wrists from the edge of the laptop, sort of like biting into your arm. Here, not only is it a wedge shape, but the laptop edge is nice and rounded. I like comfortable tech. I refuse to be sorry that I don't like being hurt by my computers. But the main thing to like about the G14 is the power. Holy cow, the power on hand here is absolutely nuts. Remember, when we talk about the scores and we talk about the numbers, remember, this thing is a 14-inch laptop. It's basically an Ultrabook with the power of my desktop. When running Cinebench R23, which if you don't know what that is, it's a benchmark of the CPU, this tiny laptop holds up better in almost every single way than some legit desktop level computers. In multi-core performance, the only processors to top it on the chart are processors that cost more than this whole laptop by itself. And the fact that it holds up pretty well to a multi-core monster like a Threadripper, that's crazy in a 14-inch laptop. I will never cease to be amazed no matter how many times I run this test. Aha, Gary. I know the game you're playing here. You talk up the multi-core and then you're just gonna glance over the single-core performance because that's where AMD traditionally falls behind. I know what you're doing, Gary. Well, aha, viewer. No, the 5900HS also holds up against the current leading 11th gen Intel i7. So this laptop is amazing in both single-core and multi-core performance, and it easily fits in my backpack. You'd think to get that kind of performance, I'd need a machine that I'd need a special bag or carrying case for. But you don't need that here. Plus, graphically, this thing is no slouch either. While the 3060 is on the lower end of the new 3000 series graphics card, this allows the G14 to be a powerhouse in both gaming and other power graphics tasks. As we saw in the video last week, the G14 might be one of the best Windows laptops that I've ever seen for video editing. It handled some very nasty high-efficiency codecs flawlessly, and while other machines at the same price point would stutter or have issues with those HEVC files, the Zephyrus here did not need to transcode anything, and even in the render held up at 60 frames per second. I wish I had something other to say here than some hyperbolic statement, but the power on hand here is impressive. It's darn impressive. And the power is usable. That's what matters to me. Benchmarks don't get work done, but that you have all of this power and it translates to something that's actually usable, that makes it even more impressive. Plus, I've really liked the thermal performance on hand here. You've heard me say this in every video. This is the hill that I'm willing to stand on. Thermal performance is the single most important part of a laptop. It just is. Nothing else really matters nearly as much. And the G14 is thermally managed pretty well. I've spent hours this week playing WoW Classic. Hopefully my wife is not watching this because I'm supposed to have been working on like YouTube stuff. I've been leveling my Paladin. I've also edited those videos and I've run all of these benchmarks and I haven't run into any serious thermal throttling. The fan noise is present. PCs are still playing catch up to Mac here, but it's not awful fan noise. I would say it's pretty comparable to what else is on the market. I have had this weird thing where it seems like randomly when I'm playing a game or running a benchmark, the fan will spike for about 10 seconds and then fade away. The computer never feels overly hot. It just, every now and then, it just decides to have a huff. I don't know, I'll be playing, it goes and then just stops. And it's like, what's going on? The next thing that I've really liked on the G14 is all of the I/O built into it. This doesn't have as much as other gaming laptops that you might find out there, but it's got basically the perfect amount for what I need, minus that whole Thunderbolt 3 thing. I do kind of wish that it had an SD card reader, but those seem to be going the way of the Dodo, so I'll mention this because I also beat up Apple for the same thing. But maybe it's time to just move on. Maybe it's just time to move on and not be hurt again. If we don't ask for the SD card, they can't break our heart. when it's not there. But HDMI, especially 2.0, and USB-A are things that all computers should have easy access to because most accessories still use those two standards. A keyboard that I bought a few weeks ago in 2021 still connects via USB-A. So if I want to use that on my Mac or my Dell XPS 15, I've got to use a dongle, and dongles are another piece that can break or get lost. Plus, while they can be found for pretty cheap online, I hate having to spend extra money on top of what I've already spent if I'm buying a pretty expensive piece of technology. Another thing that I like is the display. It's not the most cutting edge panel I've ever seen. It's a pretty standard 16:9, but it does have 144 Hz refresh rate, and it's color accurate enough to get video work done with it. Sure, I would have liked to have seen smaller bezels, but at least we have all of this amazing power and can actually see the difference on the computer itself, instead of them finding this is a place to save money and giving us a nice monitor that's only like 60 Hz or similar. And the last thing that I really like about the Zephyrus G14 is, like other laptops in this range, you can do some upgrading yourself. Inside the computer, you can replace the internal M.2 SSD and even upgrade a single stick of RAM if you really want to. I do kind of wish that it had 2 M.2 slots and 2 upgradable RAM slots, but again, it's super small, and they have had to do some sort of engineering tricks to make all of this work. So I wish it had it, but I'm not gonna ding that hard enough to be in the dislike section. The fact that you've got all of this in such a small package is an engineering feat in and of itself. So the fact that you can upgrade any of it is a pretty big plus for me. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Should you go buy the Asus Zephyrus G14 from 2021 if you are either in the market for your first laptop or as an upgrade to an older one? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thus far, I've been seriously impressed with this laptop. This is easily one of my favorites of all time, and it's really hard to find specific things to dislike about it that aren't nitpicks. If you are hoping to use your Oculus Quest 2 for VR, then I would recommend something else. But besides that, this thing is a very attractive combination of power, speed, size, and price that I haven't really seen on the market before. This could easily fit into both a gaming setup, a creative setup, or even an office setup without too many problems, and I am very, very happy that I purchased this. Thanks for watching.